So indeed, I lead corporate adoption at XRPL Commons, which is a Paris-based organization focusing on supporting the adoption of the XRP ledger across the different entities, builders, innovators, startups, corporates, and enterprise that wants to explore how to use the XRP ledger. So what basically we've done in the 3 years of our existence is design different types of programs and tracks, customizedly designed for each one of these persona. We run accelerators to support early stage builders in their journeys. We run a few grants programs to support on their ongoing endeavors. We work very closely also with the academia, with the education, with research institutions, basically to ensure that R&D efforts are constantly in line with the industry direction and with the technological developments that we're pushing forward. And under my pillar, it is the work that we do with the more mature players. And these are either the corporates, the financial institutions, the banks, or the more mature crypto players, technology players that would like to either design, again, new solutions using the XRP ledger or basically enhance what the ledger can do. So we have a variety range of partnership models, operating models, activities to design partnership, to support organizations within their journey, all the way from concept design into system integration and a lot of product deployment.
Yes. Well, your background is super fascinating, super interesting. You were at institutions around the world, some of the biggest ones out there in leadership positions, and now you've transitioned over to the blockchain XRP. What made you make that change? Like, why was that the right choice for you in your career?
That's a great question. So indeed, I spent almost 15 years working in this intersection between institutions, corporate, and innovation, with a very heavy focus on fintech and digital finance. Starting, being serving as head of fintech and blockchain for Deloitte for 5 years. Afterwards, spending around 5-6 years with the World Bank, leading digital finance under IFC, which is the private sector investment arm of the World Bank Group. I'm still working with the World Bank, leading a lot of our efforts around digital finance. In essence, I always felt like this position of really almost like becoming this intersection and serving as the architect that can help these institutions, these corporates, which requires enterprise grade framework to embrace these technologies and to harness the biggest potential that they can bring, has honestly been my life mission. And I felt like throughout all the years, I've always been very much blockchain agnostics, truthfully, worked with all of them from Coda to the IBM ones and the others. XRPL has always really struck to me as one of the leading blockchains for the financial service industry. As a platform that was designed from inception to that, I always felt like it's almost a very natural fit to go now and bring my expertise working across so many regions and product and different types of initiatives focusing on one ledger.
Alrighty, everybody, what is going on? Welcome back to another CYPRX video breakdown. In today's video, Bitcoin extends gains 5% on the day, rising above 74,000. We're going to break down the market dynamics. Before we get into that, we will come back to the remaining portions of that panel discussion or the interview with the gentleman from Evernorth and the lady from XRPL Commons. We'll come back to that towards the end of today's video breakdown. But starting off there, before we get into the fundamental landscape and going over XRP's price action today, giving you guys an accurate update via the current market sentiment and everything that's been happening in the space, I want to first take your attention, since we were listening to Ardelia Tortman from XRPL Commons. I want to go over to a recent announcement that has just taken place. First, going back over a month ago, we had this announcement where Soil launched on the XRPL, and we had this small interview with Ardelia Tortman, excuse me, I'm pronouncing her name incorrectly. And she had the founders of Soil sitting here, and they had gone on to talk about how Soil is the first regulated platform on the XRPL where users can earn stablecoin yield on RLUSD. So coming over here to the Soil platform, you guys can see it mentions real yield meets real assets, how Soil is the first regulated yield protocol on the XRPL, delivering 5 to 8% fixed APR through its vaults backed by US Treasuries, private credit, and institutional loans. No algorithms. And they just made a recent announcement, which I think is going under-noticed as we currently speak. This is huge, in my personal opinion, that they've been touting this. April 13th, 2026, you can see they just posted this, not just RLUSD, but soon XRP yield. And again, remember, this is the first fully regulated platform on the XRPL. So XRP users will have a fully regulated platform with KIC compliant structure where they can go and earn yield on both XRP and RLUSD in the days to weeks to maybe months ahead, depending on when they launch this product. If you come over to the actual Soil platform, you guys can see right here, they even have it announced. It says XRP Volts launching soon, where users are going to be able to earn yield on native XRP without leaving the XRP ecosystem. Myself and Mr. Aquaman have covered this platform before. We've gone over it inside the Wealth 28 Club, and we are deploying test amounts in RLUSD on this platform after having successfully KYC'd onto the protocol. So definitely go and check this one out. Again, not financial advice, to each his own, but these are the types of regulated platforms that you want to be incorporating in your DeFi strategies moving forward, learning about them, reading the protocol white papers, going over, what these platforms are all about. Not financial advice. Always do your own risk assessment. With that being said, that was a huge announcement that I want to deliver to you guys before we jump over to the recent fundamental headlines and why Bitcoin is up, looking at the current market landscape and what we are talking about in terms of XRP price action, where I personally think XRP is set to go. And then we might even have some time to take a look at our institutional order flow tools here that we've created at CYPRX. Before we get into that, though, real fast, Soil made another announcement, 5% on USDC across EVM chains and up to 8% on RLUSD on XRPL. I want to fixate your attention on the importance of this USDC because we just had a huge, massive announcement, again, that is just not sweeping the headlines and not getting enough attention, where I said here, this is the beginning of a broader phase of expansion. We had this announced just on April 9th, 2026. ClearBank Europe completed a notification under EU crypto asset rules on the 9th of April 2026, receiving confirmation from Dutch authorities for the financial markets that it may now operate as a crypto asset service provider. No Dutch credit institution had completed this process before, so this is the first of its kind. This status formally allows ClearBank Europe to offer digital asset services across the European Union. The bank will deploy Circle's Mint platform to give clients access to regulated stablecoins, EURC reference to the euro and USDC referenced to the dollar. ClearBank is the first Dutch bank to use it. The practical use or result is that clients can now move between TradFi currencies or traditional fiat currencies and digital assets within a regulated banking environment, with ClearBank acting as the institutional counterparty throughout. The bank is now authorized by the European Central Bank and supervised by the De Nederland Bank, its European entity, and now has been building a digital asset strategy since it received its credit institution license in the Netherlands, the MICAR notification, and the first public output of that strategy at scale. And then here, this is where it says ClearBank Europe CEO Tristan Kay described the MICA confirmation as the bank's entry into regulated digital clearing, framing it as the beginning of a broader phase of expansion. So this was just a huge announcement. It just goes to show that these financial institutions are incorporating this at a central bank level and giving access to these same stable coins that we have access to as retail traders on regulated platforms like Soil, where we can go and we can earn upwards of 5 to 8% on stable coins on a regulated platform. These financial institutions are also giving access for the first time ever and beginning the phase of a broader expansionary cycle. So this is just huge confirmation. Great stuff across the board. Lots of things have been happening. Hopefully you guys have been paying attention to these details. With that being said, coming over here, we had this also announced. I'll throw this one in there as well. No idea what this platform is, but it is related to XRP. So again, just more XRP adoption on a global scale. Rakuten Wallet launches XRP as a listed asset in payment method. I repeat, a payment method starting from April 15th, allowing users to buy the Rakuten points and spend at over 5 million different merchants in Japan. So more mass adoption incoming for XRP. Yet again, another bullish announcement showing that XRP adoption, mainstream interest is just consistently growing as we are progressing through this most recent market downturn. Now, back to this, breaking. Bitcoin extends its gains to 5% on the day and rises above 74,000. Why did this happen? What have we been going over and talking about on XRP more specifically in terms of price action, market sentiment, levels to be mindful of and pay attention to, I want to take your attention back to an April 5th, 2026 report. Now, these dates are very important here at CYPRX. We pay very close attention to timestamps. Timestamps are very important. You should be following influencers that tell you guys things before they happen, not with speculative, nonsensical theories, accuracy on another level that comes in when it matters most. So we're going to reread this portion of this report where we talked about XRP, we talked about the total cryptocurrency market, we talked about what we needed to see, not only in terms of technical analysis, but also in terms of fundamentals as well, to see a market turnaround and sentiment. We'll take a look at the charts. We'll go over XRP's price action, the total cryptocurrency market cap. We'll take a look at some recent levels. Nothing so far has changed in terms of our institutional order flow. And then we'll read the most recent report from today that we delivered to the private community members, so you guys can see why the market sentiment flipped bullish today, why the total cryptocurrency market gained over $100 billion in value on the day, and then we'll close out shop for today's video breakdown. So coming back over here to our April 5th report, scrolling up here to the top portion of this, you guys can see starting off here, I said to you all, in recent weeks, XRP showed clear strength as buyers successfully turned the $34 level into support. That level acted as a foundation for price, signaling stability and buyer control within that range. However, the current shift in order flow tells a different story, and this is when we broke back below $1.34, and we had used our institutional software to highlight to you guys that $1.27 was the next area of key support for XRP using institutional data. Fast forward, I said the immediate downside scenario, we are watching $1.27 closely. With price now trading below $1.34, sellers currently have the upper hand. If this aggressive sell pressure continues, the next key level to watch is $1.27. Mind you, again, we put this report out to you guys on April 5th. If we head over to the XRP charts, we take a look at XRP's price action. You guys can see that on April 5th, XRP's price came straight down into $1.27, i.e. our institutional dark pools that we had highlighted via our software. And from that level on April 5th, that is where price has found recent support and is now currently broke back above $1.34, turning $1.34 into support, and is starting to make its way back up towards our next institutional hurdle at $1.43. So just showing you guys the level of accuracy that we deliver here. No hopium, no hype, telling you guys about levels, playing this thing level to level every single day in the private CYPRX community, and then making this analysis public to you guys. I hope that it helps give you guys clear insights into what's actually happening on XRP's price. To continue, as we scroll down here, I said, bullish reversal scenario reclaiming $1.34. On the flip side, there is still a path for buyers to regain control, but it requires a clear shift in momentum. If buyers can reclaim $1.34 with strong aggressive buy volume and successfully trap sellers above that level, it would mark a key reversal signal. This would invalidate the current bearish structure and shift short-term sentiment back in favor of buyers. And that is the scenario that we're currently seeing play out today. So I said, in a recovery scenario, price will not move freely. Buyers will immediately face resistance from previous sell walls. And I gave you guys this screenshot highlighting $1.27 to $1.34 as the most recent hurdles, and then hopefully sending price back up to $1.43 as the next key area of interest. Before any sustained bullish continuation can be considered, buyers must overcome several key resistance zones, $1.34 to $1.43. And here you guys can see I had highlighted $1.34 for you guys as an institutional level to be mindful of. Right now, XRP is at a critical inflection point. The breakdown below $1.34 has shifted short-term control to sellers. And the focus now turns to whether buyers can defend the lower levels or if we see a continuation of downside-driven momentum by trapped liquidity and forced selling. As always, this is not about predicting, it is about reacting to where liquidity flows next. As we continue to follow suit with the remaining portions of this article that I wrote for you guys, going over the crypto market cap, you guys can see we were trading at about $2.28 trillion. And I mentioned that we needed to turn the 2.3 institutional dark pool into support in order to see a rally into $2.6 trillion. I also mentioned to you guys on the flip side, a shift in sentiment driven by easing geopolitical tensions. That's going to be very important. or supportive macro data could push the market cap back above 2.3 trillion. If that level is reclaimed and held as support, it opens up the door for a recovery towards 2.6 to 2.8 trillion ranges as the next major upside targets. Fast forward again to today, more recent times, we have seen over $115 billion added to the total cryptocurrency market cap. You can see back on April 5th, when we were trading slightly below 2.3 trillion, we have retested the institutional dark pool to the absolute T of a degree at $2.3 trillion, turned it into support, and we are now starting to make our way towards that next institutional hurdle at $2.6 trillion. So I hope that you guys enjoy this level of accuracy. If you guys want these up-to-date reports where we hand type these reports out to our private community members every single day, you guys can head over to CYPRXtrading.com, lock in with us in our private CyPRX Discord. It is the most accurate Discord on the face of the retail internet. We have access to institutional data, dark pools, delta zones, and hand typed out fundamental reports that we gather from across all institutional artifices. Definitely lock in with us, considering the most recent market landscape and the fundamental headlines that have been an absolute nightmare to navigate if you have no idea what you're paying attention to. We'd love to have you guys and gals on the team. Now, reading today's update. This is our private community report that I just got finished uploading for the community members, April 13th, 2026. Why have we seen an aggressively reversed sentiment in risk assets? Today, both crypto and equities were seen responding aggressively to the signs of geopolitical progress. After we're done reading this, we'll go over the updated levels on XRP, and I'll let you guys sit for the rest of the day as we head into Asia session. The total cryptocurrency market cap added roughly around $98 billion. That was when I was writing this. It's up slightly more, pushing back towards the $2.5 trillion mark. While the Nasdaq surged through its March highs, delivering its strongest single-day performance since the beginning of the Iran conflict. This was not just a random rally. It was a clear reaction to easing pressure across multiple macro drivers, particularly the oil prices and bond yields, both of which pulled back slightly and gave risk assets room to breathe. U.S. equities followed through with strength across the board. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq both gained over 1%, led by continued momentum in software and application stocks. Despite no formal agreement, what is taking place and why is this so important? What happened today? Despite no formal agreement being reached over the weekend between the U.S. and Iran, markets began to price in the possibility of a deal after President Donald Trump stated that Iran had reached out and was now seeking to resume negotiations. That one single shift from deadlock to potential dialogue was enough to spark a wave of optimism across global markets. It's actually interesting in real time up here in the right-hand corner. You can see some of the private community members reading this report. At the same time, the geopolitical backdrop remains extremely fragile. Early on in the day, Israeli forces launched a ground operation in southern Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah positions and advancing into the town of Bint. This escalation comes right before planned talks between Israel and Lebanese officials in Washington, a rare face-to-face meeting between two sides technically set to still the war. However, expectations for progress remain low. Israel has already stated it will not discuss a ceasefire with Hezbollah leadership, and it has rejected the talks entirely, calling them pointless and reaffirming their commitment to continued resistance. This highlights a key theme in this market. While negotiations exist, the path towards a resolution is far from stable. On the Iranian front, tensions continue to revolve around control of the Strait of Hormuz, arguably the most critical choke point in global energy markets. Since the war began, Iran has effectively restricted passage to the strait, which typically accounts for roughly 20% of global oil flows. And in response to that, the U.S. has moved to impose a naval blockade on Iranian shipping. Escalating the situation further, Iran has warned that any foreign military enforcement in the region would only increase instability, while NATO allies such as Britain and France have distanced themselves from direct involvement, instead pushing for diplomatic solutions to reopen the waterway. Behind the scenes, negotiations appear closer than headlines might suggest. Reports indicate that the weekend talks in Pakistan brought both sides nearly 80% towards an agreement before ultimately stalling on key unresolved issues. Iranian officials have introduced new demands, including recognition of their control over the Strait of Hormuz, the lifting of sanctions, and the withdrawal of U.S. military forces from the region. Meanwhile, the U.S. remains firm on its core objective, ensuring Iran cannot develop nuclear weapons. This fundamental disagreement continues to act as the main sticking point in ongoing negotiations. However, what truly fueled today's bullish move was a potential breakthrough that surfaced later on in the New York session, where Iranian officials reportedly were considering abandoning uranium enrichment as part of a broader agreement, a major concession if confirmed. Mediated by Oman, this development suggests Iran may be willing to compromise on one of the most critical aspects of the conflict in exchange for sanction relief and de escalation. If this narrative continues to gain traction, it could significantly improve global risk sentiment and further support upside in both crypto and equities. That said, this is not the time to be complacent. The market is still operating in a headline driven environment where sentiment can shift rapidly, which is why we encourage you guys to be a part of a community that keeps you all in the loop every single day with these fundamental reports and ongoing headlines, breaking them down for you all in detail, step by step, and giving you guys updated TA analysis so you can remain intact with the current market headlines. Today's rally is not built on hope, but that negotiation and progress will continue. That tensions ease, let me reread that. Today's rally is built on hope that negotiations progress, that tensions ease, and that the worst case scenario will be avoided. But if those expectations fail to materialize, we could just as quickly see a reversal in risk appetite. Looking ahead in days to come, specifically tomorrow, the focus will now shift towards upcoming economic data in the US, particularly the PPI inflationary figures and the Federal Reserve commentary, as we have scattered Fed speakers throughout the week and tomorrow. This will play a critical role in shaping the next move. Even with inflation still running elevated, markets are clinging to the possibility of rate cuts. If the PPI data shows signs of cooling and Fed officials avoid overly hawkish rhetoric, that could reinforce the current bullish momentum, especially if that was paired with continued positive geopolitical headlines. On the flip side, any stronger than expected inflation data or hawkish Fed comments could strengthen the dollar, push yields higher, and weigh on risk assets. If we were to combine that with any deterioration in the US-Iran negotiations or further escalation in Middle East tensions, sentiment could shift quickly back towards risk off, so be mindful. For now, the bullish thesis remains intact, but it is entirely dependent on headlines continuing to move in the right direction. In this environment, it is not about predicting, it is about staying prepared and adapting as the narrative evolves. So, heading over to XRP's price action and the total cryptocurrency market cap. First, right off the bat, the total cryptocurrency market cap has found a very nice support at $2.3 trillion. The next institutional hurdle comes in at $2.6 trillion. If we can see buyers overcome $2.6 trillion, turn this level into support, we are likely going to see some form of a sell squeeze above these previous highs and some formal attempt to push towards the next dark pool at 2.89 trillion. However, I'm not becoming overly optimistic of a full-blown rally and recovery of this massive bearish move unless we turn $2.6 trillion into support, retest it, and start to create some form of bullish order flow above it in the form of higher highs and higher lows. We are a bit of a stretch away from that, but still, nonetheless, if we were to see this type of price action above $2.6 trillion, the next hurdle that we need to see overcome before we get overly optimistic is a breakthrough at 2.89 trillion. To the downside, just in case sentiment starts to deteriorate or we see some profit taking, as long as price remains above $2.3 trillion, I remain optimistic that this type of price action is open and on the table for possibilities. Playing both sides of the fence. As always, we cannot marry a bias. And so if at any time sentiment deteriorates, we cannot see an aggressive push above $2.6 trillion, buyers breaking above previous sellers that are likely going to passively defend $2.6 trillion, turn that into support. And instead, we see sellers aggressively push back below 2.6, breaking previous supports. Then the likely scenario is a pullback back down into support at 2.3 trillion before we reaccumulate more orders and buyers make another decisive turning point. If that does not happen and worst case scenario unfolds, sellers become aggressive. Again, we have that next support at $2.05 trillion, but that is a far stretch away from where we're currently trading at now. And sentiment does not seem like it is in favor of these two environments. For right now, I personally believe that the momentum is skewed to the upside, especially if we can break above that $2.6 trillion threshold. As for XRP's price, right now, XRP's price over the past month has been relatively boring, not going to lie. However, we have seen the $1.27 area of interest that we had highlighted back on April 5th act as a support. We tested it to the absolute freaking pip. I'm super excited that we are able to give you guys access to this institutional information and then have you see and watch it play out in real time. Instead of all the hopium and the hype that exists out there on the internet, tap into a community that has access to institutional software so you guys become a lot more accurate and realistic with your overall predictions, dollar cost averaging, or just day trading strategies. With that being said, XRP has recently tapped above $1.34, turning it into support, which now opens the door for a revisitation of $1.43. Just like the total cryptocurrency market cap, before I get too excited of any higher prices on XRP, we need to see $1.43 broken. We need to see buyers start to create bullish order flow above it, turning $1.43 into support, trapping sellers, and becoming aggressive enough to continue with the overall bullish momentum. If we can see that, then we're likely going to see a nice push to some extent, even though, of course, this is not just going to happen overnight in the blink of an eye. It'll probably take a couple of days to play out, but that would open the door for a revisitation of our next hurdle at $1.62. Now, real fast, I'll take you guys over to the institutional order flow, and we will go over real quick so you guys can actually see the levels via the institutional software that we have built in-house here at CYPRX. Shout out to Institutional Scalper. As always, this is our institutional order flow. With that being said, you guys can see that right now there is an institutional sell wall that sits at $1.43, which remains our next hurdle to the upside. We can see that there is going to be sell absorption here, most likely as buyers try to make an attempt to push price into $1.43. We need to see buyers smoothly push through $1.43. That would open the door for the next institutional hurdle, or the sell wall over here at roughly around $1.50. If we can break $1.50, then the next hurdle comes in at about $1.60. Those are the three levels to the upside right now, given the most immediate upside momentum. If this buy pressure continues, that I'm looking forward to see if XRP price can break above these levels, turn them into support, and then I will get excited for some higher levels. Now, I will say this. No other community on the face of the internet has access to this type of information, but what we can see here at CYPRX is all this institutional sell pressure that still sits at higher prices. I'm not going to go over these prices for the sake of this particular video breakdown, but we go over all these levels in detail with our private community members. For now, these are the three upsides that we need to see price break above. These are the three upside targets that we need to see price break above before we get overly excited on XRP's price. So right now, first and most immediate hurdle is at $1.43. If we break that, turn that into support, $1.50 is next. Slightly above that, $1.60 to $1.62 would be the next institutional hurdle. You guys can see that right now, buyers have passively defended $1.27, as we have seen an institutional buy wall come up at $1.27, respect $1.34, turn it into support, and now we are starting to make our way higher. To the downside, because again, the downside cannot be ignored. If at any point in time we do not see aggressive buyers break above $1.43, and instead we see the sellers that clearly exist at $1.43 defend this price, trap buyers, and push price aggressively back to the downside, and we end up breaking these two institutional support walls, any breakdown below $1.34 opens the door for a revisitation of these lows at $1.27, and we do have an institutional buy wall still resting at around $1.11. So anything below $1.27 would open the door for a drop down into $1.11, where I personally will be looking to scoop up some more XRP if that scenario were to come into fruition. For now, momentum is in favor of the buyers, as we have had some recent bullish activity and a return and risk appetite. With that being said, blessings to you guys. Hopefully you all enjoyed the breakdown today. I am skewed for time, so I do have to hop off. Do appreciate the love and the support for everybody that taps in with us. Don't forget that at any point in time, if you guys want access to this information, you guys can always head over to CYPRXtrading.com. You can tap in with us in the private CYPRX Discord, where there's literally hundreds, if not thousands of panel discussions like the ones that you guys saw today. There's so much valuable information. There's panel discussions like the ones that we started off today's video breakdown with. There's institutional order flow, fundamental reports, a community of like-minded individuals. You're mentored by 5, 6 to 7 figure mentors that have actual skills in this market, over 20 years of combined experience. No hopium, no hype here at CYPRX. We'd love to have you guys on the team. Many blessings to you guys. Be cognizant, be aware out there, and I'll see you guys in the next video breakdown.